So it says like this, right? That now Avraham Avinu. We spoke last week about Avraham Avinu, the beginnings of his life,
right.
How he came to Eretz Israel, and now we're going to continue a little bit with the continuation of what happened in his life. So it says like this, right? That Vahi b'mei Avrafel melech shin'ar Aryoch melech elasar kedor la'omer melech elam v'tid'al melech goyim. Right. So it says, right, that there was a few kings over here, and what happened was that these kings asu milchama et Berad melech Sodom ve'et Birsha melech Amorah Shin'ar melech Adma v'shem Eber melech Tzeroim u'melech Bela Hitzoar. So it says, right, that there was 4 kings that made war with 5 kings. That's what happened. So we have to understand a little bit what the reason was for this war, and what its consequences are and everything. Because the Torah here wants to emphasize this war, that it was something important, it was something crucial. By the way, the Chazal say, the rabbis, they say, the sages, that this war was really a precursor to the war of Gog and Magog, which is going to be in the end of days, before Mashiach comes. This is like the same kind of format as that war exactly. So what does that mean? That we have here 2 groups of goyim, nations, right? 4 kings against 5 kings, and they've been making war with each other. And they're coming to where to make this war? Of all places, right? It's Israel. But these nations, were not all from Eretz Israel. So why do they want to make the war over there? Because also in Gog and Magog, they say, right, that the war is going to be also in Eretz Israel. So same thing as it's going to be.
You mean as Eretz Israel?
Right, in Eretz Israel, yeah. Sure. So here also it comes to where they make this war. It says in Emek Hasidim, right? What is Emek Hasidim? So this is the place where the Sea of Salt, right, is today, the Dead Sea. Now the Dead Sea, what's the significance of the Dead Sea? The Dead Sea is a very salty sea, right? And people go there to get healed, all kinds of interesting things. But in those times, there was no sea there.
No sea?
No sea, right. That sea came in later on. So meaning what? It's something relatively new, that sea. It's not such an old thing. A few thousand years old, only. But what happened was that at that time, that place was called Fields, the Valley of Fields. What does it mean, Valley of Fields? That means that it was a low-lying area, a valley, and there was full of fields over there, right? Places where you can grow, all kinds of foods and all kinds of, grains and things like that. It was a nice fertile area, right, over there. And then later on, what happened was that water came into that area, gushed in, and made the Dead Sea over there. That's the history of the Dead Sea. Yeah.
Like because of the wars. That's.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're asking what then?
Yeah, how we came is Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea came because water came into that area later on. Water came in, and that's how it got to be a sea. But at this time of history, there was no sea there. It was just a valley. Interesting, right? So, by the way, the interesting thing is that the Dead Sea doesn't really have any springs. You understand? It's like kind of like it has no foundation, the sea.
Right.
And this is why it's drying up, right, all the time. They say, right, it's getting lower and lower and lower and lower. Why is that? Because since it has no springs, so there's no water coming in on a regular basis, it's only relying on rainwater and stuff like that. So it's not really, so full. And it keeps getting lower, the water, and lower the level, everything gets lower. So the thing is, that the Chazal say that the Dead Sea why is it so salty, by the way? What's the reason why? Because what happened was that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu smote, when he overturned the cities of Sodom and Amorah, so what happened was that area was punished very severely, and he turned the whole area into salt. That area. Because there was a rain over there, it came down, it was like with sulfur, all kinds of things, all kinds of chemicals, and it turned the whole area into salt. So because of that, that area is very salty. There's a lot of salt over there, and this is the reason why the water is so salty right there, right? And it's so salty that, no fish can live there. No, living matter can live in that sea. And also, you don't sink, right? You don't have to know how to swim. It's so salty, right? It just makes you float on top, so you can't really even sink in that sea. It's a very strange, phenomenon, the sea. It's like a very unique kind of situation over there. But anyway, we're not talking about that, but so what happened was that they gather over there, these nations, and what's the reason for the war? Because there was a rebellion, right? What happened was that there was 4 kings against the 5. So who was the 4 kings and who was the 5 kings, right? So it tells you, right, that it was Amraphel melech Shin'ar, Arioch melech El Asar, Kedor LaOmer melech Elam, Betid'al melech Goim. So these nations, who are they? Amraphel, right? The Chazal say he is Nimrod. Who was the son of Cush, right? The black man. So he was, African guy. But what happened was that they went, as we covered, a couple of weeks ago, they went into the valley of, the Mesopotamian valley there, where Iraq is. They went over there and they created a nation over there. And that's where that tower was built, right? We spoke about the tower that was built there. So that place is like Iraq today. That's where it is. So he was the king of Iraq, Nimrod. He was the first king over there. And he was pairing up with these other kings, right? Which it says over here the names. Kedor LaOmer, it says the king of Elam. So the question is, where is Elam? Elam is like Iran, that area over there, like Iran, the eastern areas over there, Pakistan, all those areas. That's called Elam. So they banded together. Why? What's the reason why they banded together? Because these other kings, the 5 kings, who were the king of Sodom and Amorah, right? And each one has a very interesting name, right? Each one has like a strange name over here. You see, right? Bera Melech Sodom. His name is Bera. Right? Then it's Bilsha, right? Who was the king of Amorah. And Shinav Melech Adma, Veshemever Melech Tzoim. So all these areas were like in one area by the Dead Sea. And it was in the land of Israel, but in the south, right? In the south, in the Negev over there. So the interesting thing is that these kings all have these weird names. So the Chazal darshan these names. They say, right, that Bera, what do you see now? If you know a little bit Hebrew, you see, right, that it has there the word Ra, which is bad. It means bad. Right? Bad, right? Ra means bad. So meaning what? That he was a bad guy, this guy. That was his name. He was a bad person, and Bera means 2 times, right? He was bad, twice as bad. He was very bad. And also Rasha, right? Same thing over here. So here you see the word Rasha in his name, right? So he was a Rasha with Bet, which is like, twice as bad. And Shin Av, right? They say also, the darshan that name also. They say what? That here you see 2 words over here combined. Right, Soneh and Av, right? That you hate his father, meaning what? That they hated God, his father in heaven. Right? They hated, meaning what? That these people knew was God. It's not like they didn't know. They were in some darkness. No, they knew, but they intended to rebel against God. They didn't want to serve God, and they wanted to do everything they could to keep him out of their lives. They're just the opposite, right? That's the way it was. They hated God, and then also, right? Shem Ever. This guy also has an interesting name. What's the reason why he has this name? It says, right, that he made some kind of, he put some kind of wings on his body, in order that he could fly. And this also he did to rebel against God, to show, he can go up there and fight with him, whatever, something like that. So this is the reason why they have all these strange names. But anyway, what happened was that these kings were under the rule of the first 4 kings. Right? They were like, vassal nations, basically, So these vassal nations, when you're a vassal nation, what happens is you have to pay tribute. You have to pay taxes to the nations that's ruling over you. And there has to be all kinds of, arrangements over here. You have to give them certain things. It's like you're kind of like, you're ruled by them, you're a slave, like they're a slave. So because of that, what happened was that they served them for a certain amount of time. And then they rebelled. And now, right, once they saw that they rebelled, so King Kedor LaOmer and the other kings, and Kedor LaOmer was the main king over here, who was he was the one that he was rebelled against. So he brought also Nimrod, as we said, and all the other kings, 2 other kings also as well, and they came to put down the rebellion, to bring them back into their rule. That's the reason why they made this war. So we have two different factions over here, two different factions of kings, 4 against 5. So they came, right, and they made a war one against the other. Now, what does it have to do with us? We're like on the sidelines over there. So how are we connected with all this? So the reason we're connected is because there's several things, right? As we said, this is also a precursor for Gog and Magog. What does that mean, the precursor of Gog and Magog? That means that explain the Malbim and the Abarbanel, two major, commentaries on the Chumash, on the Bible. They say that also the Gog and Magog will be like similar to this. What does that mean? That there'll be two factions of Goyim, nations, fighting one with the other. What are those two factions? We have the Christians and the Muslims, right? So these two. Now, why do they always fight against each other? These two factions. They're today also fighting, right? You see, right? ISIS, this, America, Russia. Well, we have all these players coming in there, right? Jihad and all this, and Al Qaeda and Iran. So you see, we have two different factions over here fighting with each other, more or less. Same thing we have today. So what do we care about those two factions? These two factions, the reason why they fight with each other, he explains very well, right, the Malbim. He says that the reason why they fight is because their religions are different, their cultures are different. And because of that, they have a hard time getting along, like they have a different way of looking at life, different philosophy, different approach. And because of that, they have a hard time getting along. And by the way, this is what God wanted, that there should be conflict between the nations. Why did he want that? Because as we said, right, when they were together, so they built a tower and rebelled against God. So meaning what? Unity by the nations is not a good thing, because what? It causes them to rebel against God. And that's why God doesn't want that. So he divided up into different factions. And this is why we always have, right, the East against the West, and the Muslims against the Christians, and all these factions fighting with each other. Until this day, we have the same thing going on. And this is actually, in a sense, right, like a positive thing, kind of. Because of the reason that we need that, if they wouldn't fight against each other, they would be fighting against God and against the Jews more. So that it keeps them busy. That the fact that they're fighting each other, so they don't have time to deal with us. That's the best thing. These two factions coming together, fight with one another. Says the Malbim and the Abarbanel, same thing will be there, right? That what will happen? That they're going to fight over the hegemony of the land of Israel. Who's going to rule over there, whatever. So this is going to be a part of it. Also, they're going to fight over the issue of the city of Rome, right? As we said, right, the city of Rome will be destroyed in these wars, right? And because there will come the side of the Muslims, the Arabs, and all these things, and they will do some kind of battles, some great battles. It says, and what will they do in those battles? They will destroy, right, the city of Rome and the Western culture, which is in Europe. They will make a big effort, to make a very, very great war against them. And what will happen is that once that war is fought and they destroy the city of Rome, so then what will happen is that all the factions of that party, of that side, which is the Christian side, right, will get together now to avenge this, this great, loss that they had, this great humiliation that they suffered from the side of the East, right, from the eastern side. So what will happen is that now they'll gather all together into that area, Rome, right, and all these places, and they will also go to Eretz Israel. They'll also spread over there the war, because they're fighting over Jerusalem, right? Who's going to rule over Jerusalem, and so forth and so on. So because of that, the war will break into that area as well. And so basically, what we have over here is this very similar idea, that we have two different factions of nations fighting with one another, and the war breaks into Eretz Israel, just like, it's going to be in Gog and Magog. And the interesting thing is that, so now what happens is Avraham Avinu, he now, right, symbolizes who? The Jews, right? He's in the middle somewhere, caught in the middle, doesn't really want to be involved with this thing, but he has no choice, you understand? So this is exactly what the Jews will have also during the war of Gog and Magog, that they'll be in the midst of that battle between one side and the other, and they're going to be stuck in the middle, and looking for a way to save themselves from this predicament. God should save them. So what will happen is that just like it was in the time of Abraham, what happened over there? That they went and took Lot, right? Prisoner, captive. They took him captive. Where was he living? He was living in Sodom, right? What was he doing over there? Because he he liked that kind of culture, the depraved culture that they had over in Sodom. He was into that, he liked that stuff. So because of that, he got caught up there, and he was taken captive. So Avraham Avinu, once he heard that Lot was taken captive, so what he did was he went to war to get him back, to redeem him from the captivity. This is what happened. So what happens is that now, what's the reason why they take Lot? Because he's in Sodom, and Sodom is a part of the war. But actually, right, the Chazal say that they took Lot on purpose. They were looking for him to take him, right? So there's several reasons why they wanted to take Lot. Number one, right, there's one opinion that says that really, as we mentioned before in the former weeks, that Lot actually looked like Abraham. They were cousin, nephews, right? Nephew and uncle. So because of that, they looked like each other, and they really thought, when they saw Lot over there, they thought it was Abraham. So they took him, as a captive, because they thought, if we take Abraham as captive, this is like a big prize for us, we can get whatever we want. So they wanted to, harm Abraham, they wanted to kill Abraham, they wanted to use him as a ploy to get what they need. So what they did was, they took him. One opinion says because they thought it was Abraham, this person, but it really wasn't. It looked like him. Number two, there's also another opinion that says that they took Lot because they wanted to use him as a ransom, to bring. In other words, they knew that Lot, first of all, was wealthy. He had a lot of possessions. Number two, they knew that Abraham would try to get him back, to redeem him. So therefore, they knew, right, that if they take him hostage, that they can get good prize from Abraham for returning him as a hostage. So they took him also for that reason. There were several reasons why they took him. So they had all their strategy. The strategy was very clear what they had. So what happened was that Avraham Avinu, once he saw that, it says in the pasuk right like this. Let's just read over here in the pasukim a little bit. Kol ele chavu ele mekasidim hu yam hamelach shetem 10 shana עבדו את כדור לעומר ו13 שנה מרדו ו14 שנה בא כדור לעומר והמלאכים אשר איתו ויקרו רפאים בהשתאות קנאים ואת הזוזים בהם ואת הימים בשבי קריאתיים. So it says, right, that once, when they were doing this war, Kedor LaOmer and Nimrod, what they did was little by little they advanced right into the territory that they were going into. But also on the way, they also destroyed other areas also there. There was areas where there were giants over there. Big people, very, very giant people. So they also went and killed them, those giants over there in those areas. So they did a lot of damage on their way as well, once before they got there. So this is the way it was. And so it says afterwards, ותחורי בהרם שעיר עד אל פרן אשר על המדבר וישובו ויבואו אל המשפט הוא קדש ויכו את השדה המלכי וגם את האמורי היושב בחצוצון תמר. So it says that they're advancing closer to Eretz Israel and they're killing more people over there. Right, so it says all these nations, which are interesting, right? It says the Amaleki, right? The field of the Amalekites. And the interesting thing about that is that Amalek at that time didn't exist. So how can it be that you have an area which is called Amalek, where this nation hasn't even been born yet? So the answer is it's talking about the future, right? And the future is going to be called Amalek. So therefore they call it now also Amalek. It's not really Amalek yet. But the Torah is talking about the future time is going to be called that. So it's telling you, right, those areas they went through, and they conquered all these areas, and they had a big war over here. This was like a world war over here, major world war that took place. It affected like most of the inhabited areas at that time. So it says, right, ויצא מלך סדום, מלך עמורה, מלך אדמה, מלך צבעים, מלך בלה, צוער, והלכו איתם מלחמה במכסים. So it says, right, that they made the war once they saw them coming. The 4 kings, right, were coming to the 5 kings, so they went out to greet them and to make the war with them. את כדור לעומר מלך אלם, ותדל מלך רועים, והמאפל מלך שנער, והליוך מלך אלעשר, ו4 מלכים את החמישה. So it says, right, 4 kings against 5, that's the way it was. ומכסים בארות החמר, והנוסו מלך סדום ועמורה, שמה, והנשארים הרה נסו. Right, so it says what happened, that the war started to get into the battle array, and ויקחו את כל רכוש סדום ועמורה ואת כל אכלם וילכו. So it says something amazing, right? That these 4 kings were very strong, very powerful. What they did was they defeated these 5 kings, right, as they wanted to, and not only they defeated them, but they took all their possessions, they took all their wives,
4
everything.
5, right?
Right.
4.
So the 4 were stronger, right? That's what we're saying, right? Those 4 were stronger than the 5. So what happened was that they defeated them and they took their possessions, they took their valuables, they took their wives, they took their children, they took everything and went out. So what does that mean for us? That means ויקחו Lot ואת רכושו בן אחי אברהם וילכו והוא יושב בסדום, right? So it says that they also took Lot, right, who was sitting there as well. So this is why it's important to us. Why? Because Abraham Avinu now wants to save Lot, right? Once he sees that he's taken captive. So it says, right, that he was dwelling in Sodom. Why does it tell you that he was dwelling in Sodom? We know that he was dwelling in Sodom. We already knew that from the past. So the answer is that even though we know that he was dwelling in Sodom, but it's telling you what's the reason why he was taken captive, because he was dwelling with the wicked people in Sodom, right? And this is why he was taken captive. When you dwell with the wicked, right, you also are influenced by that. You could have all kinds of mishaps happen, God forbid, because you're dwelling with wicked people. That's what the Chazal say, right? There's a famous saying in Chazal. Oy l'rasha ve'oy l'shcheno, right? Woe is to the wicked and woe is also to their neighbors. Meaning what? Their neighbors also suffering from their wickedness. So, the Sodom and Amorah, they were particularly wicked, these people. They were just not like mildly wicked, like we have today some mildly wicked nations. These were like very, very wicked, very, very, very corrupt, very, very, without any borders, without any
No morality.
Right, no morality, nothing. Just the opposite of immorality, right? Like totally negative immorality. As there's many stories brought down by the Chazal that the atrocities that they used to commit, right? That they had all kinds of strange rules, all kinds of strange laws, all kinds of strange things, right? And they was personified by cruelty, right? The Sodom and Amorah. They had a tremendous level of cruelty. Like, for example, they say, right, that you're not allowed.
Only for like guests or someone, or their own people also.
No, their own people were living good there. They were living very well. They had a good life, very nice, Paradise. It was paradise over there. But the problem is that if anybody wanted to come in and benefit from that, so that they didn't want. Why didn't they want that? They said, listen, we have like a beautiful here, we have a Gan Eden over here, beautiful, most beautiful place in the world. We have wealth, we have good weather, we have good climate, we have good farming, we have good land, we have good scenery. Everything is beautiful over here. So what are we lacking? So why should we let now people come in, right, and take our wealth, and plunder us like that? So that's the reason why they made these rules. What were the rules? Right, you're not allowed to take in anybody as a guest. You know what I mean? And you're not allowed to give tzedakah to anybody who comes in from outside, all these kinds of things. And the reason was, what's the reason why they had these rules? Because they wanted to prevent people from coming in there. They didn't want anybody coming in to get some money from them or whatever it is, to take away their wealth, take away their possessions, whatever it is. So that's why they had these rules to safeguard, their wealth and their lifestyle, their level of life that they had. So this was very, very wicked. ויבוא הפליט ויגד לאברהם העברי והוא שוכן באלוני ממרא המורי אחי אשכול ואחי ענר והם בעלי ברית אברהם. So it says, right, that how did Abraham Avinu find out about this war? Right, in those days there was no internet and telephones and all these things. So what happened was that there was a shliach, there was some kind of a messenger that came there, and this messenger came on his own volition, right? Nobody asked him to come. He had his own motives for this, right? So it says, right, that there was one guy who survived this war. And, they also wanted to kill him, I think. That's what he's trying to say, right? And because of that, he survived, he ran off, and he comes to tell Abraham Avinu, that war, you should know, your nephew was taken captive. That's what he tells him, right? So, who was this guy? This was Og Melech HaBashan, right? The giant, Og. He was one of the few giants that were left at that time. So, Og Melech HaBashan comes and tells Abraham Avinu, your nephew was taken captive. Wow, you better go and save the poor guy. I feel bad for you, I feel bad for him. So they say the Chazal, right, that he had a motive here. It wasn't for no reason why he wanted to do this. Why is that? Because he knew that Abraham Avinu, he had a beautiful wife, Sarah, so he wanted to take her for himself. So his plan was, I'll get Abraham to go and make war with over there, and they'll kill him, and then I'll take his wife afterwards. This was his idea. So, he wasn't a noble person, this guy. He had his own motives, right? Wicked motives. So he comes over there to tell Avraham Avinu, your nephew, I feel so bad. I saw him, they took him into captivity. You're going to have to do something to save this poor guy. So Avraham Avinu doesn't mind. He has no qualms to go out there and save his nephew, even though he's risking his life. And this is definitely a very dangerous operation over here. Not an easy thing to go against all these kingdoms, while he himself, is just, he's got a few hundred people around him. He's not exactly, king of a country. So he doesn't have such a big army or anything like that. He has a few people around him, a few hundred, whatever, that's all. So nevertheless, he went and to make war with these people who are like hundreds of thousands of millions of people probably there. We're talking about huge armies over there. So he went there nevertheless to go there and to save his nephew. So he goes there, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a miracle for him. That's what happened, right? That he had all kinds of miracles that occurred, and due to that, he was able to win the war against these kings to save Lot, and he got him out of there, right? He rescued him.
Against four kings.
Right, because those 5 kings were already out of the picture. They already lost. They already ran off. So all that was left were those 4 kings. So he went and made war with them, and the Chazal say, right, that Kadosh Baruch Hu made all kinds of miracles for him. Like, he was picking up sand, like from the floor, right, and the dust, and throwing it at them, and it was becoming like, arrows and stones, right, and he was beating them like that, all kinds of miraculous things. How can you beat a whole army of people like that, 4 kings, can you imagine? Who can do that, just by having a few hundred people around? It's not really something which is realistic. It's a totally miraculous thing. But the Chazal says something even more miraculous, right, that really, he didn't take all his people with him, he only took one guy with him, right, which was Eliezer. Right, that's all he took. And him and Eliezer went, and 2 people, can you imagine? They went and they saved Lot like that against these 4 kings. Right? How do we know that that's the case? So it says, right, like this.
So 4 of the kings, all of them, they are living in Sodom Gomorrah.
No, they attacked that area. They weren't living there. Right? They attacked there. They beat them. So what happens is, like it says, that Vayishma Avram kinishba achiv, וירק את חניכיו ילידי ביתו שמונה 13 וירדוף עד דן. So it says, right, that he took 318 people with him to go and fight the war against the 4 kings, and he chased them until the north of Eretz Israel, right? He went very, very far, because he himself was now where? He was in Hebron. So Hebron is in the south of Eretz Israel. So he had to go all the way to the north and chase them over there, and that's how he got rescued Lot out of there. But not only he rescued Lot, but he chased away all these kings, you understand? And what happened was that all the possessions and the wealth that they took from Sodom and Amorah now were left there. So Avraham Avinu also managed to rescue all the possessions of Sodom and Amorah. Basically, that's what happened.
So basically, that's 4 kings they have that Lot they have in their possession.
Right, they had Lot, right. So Avraham Avinu got Lot out of their hands. That's what happened. He got him out of their hands. He didn't have to pay ransom for them, whatever, something like that, He just, for free, just whatever. So he got them out, and he got all the possessions and also the wives and the children that were kidnapped and everything. All those people he got out. He got everything back. Nothing was taken from these people. It was unbelievable. It was a total miracle, this thing. So they say, like Chazal, right? How do you know that? It says over here that he took 318 people with him to the war. So how do you know that it was just Eliezer? Right? You're telling me that it was one guy he took with him, but here it says 318. They say, right, the gematria of Eliezer is 318, right? So it really means that you know what's gematria, right? If each letter has like a numerical value in Hebrew. So that if you add up all these letters, it comes out to be 318. They say, right, that what do you call it? So what happened was that he took Eliezer, just him, those 2, and they beat all those kings. It was a total miracle, this thing. And by the way, to link this up to Hanukkah, this is exactly what happened on Hanukkah as well, right? That we had like a very, very small army of zealot Jews who made a war against the huge, Greek armies that were like endless. We're talking about 1 million people. It says in the book Biam Loez over there that basically
after second Bet HaMikdash, right? Hanukkah.
Was during the second Bet HaMikdash. Right? During, yes, during. So what happened was that there was a family of Kohanim right, that were at that time, they were the rulers of Eretz Israel. So what happened was that they decided to go and fight with the Greeks, and basically they had no army because most of the people defected. They were on the side of the Greeks. Actually, a lot of the Jews became Hellenized. So they became like with the Greeks, and really they didn't have much left. So therefore, what they had is just their family. We're talking about 10 people, basically, and those 10 people were the family of like Matitya and Yochanan Kohen Gadol. All these people, they were the ones who went and they saved. They made a war against 1 million people, Greek army. And this was a great miracle that occurred in Hanukkah. Besides the miracle of the oil, there was also the miracle of the battle. We're talking about one family takes on 1 million man army. Can you imagine something like that? So that also was like a total miracle. Naturally speaking, you cannot do such a thing like that. And so the same thing we see over here, right? With Avraham Avinu, that 2 people went and they fought 4 kings and defeated them, which is all miraculous, all these things. So by the way, you should know that this is not coincidence, these things. Why is that? Because really, right, we think, the mistaken notion people have is that, you have to, if you want to make war, so you got to be stronger than the other side, better weaponry, better tanks, better planes, all these things. So if you have all that, so you're going to beat them, and it's all about the quality or the quantity of the ammunition that you have. But according to the Torah, it's not really true, this thing. What happens is, right, that first of all we have, when we say in the morning, we pray every day, we say Az Yashir, the song that was said during the splitting of the sea, after the splitting of the sea. So it says over there, right, Adonai Ish Milchama. What does that mean, right? That really the one who makes the war is Hashem. In other words, we are commanded, to act by nature. So therefore we have to have an army, if we have the money and we have the resources to make an army, so we should have an army. Sometimes there is no resources for that. There were periods in history where they had nothing, and this was the case also with the time of the Greeks, right? The Hanukkah, they had no resources for an army, so it was totally a miracle. So here now, nowadays we have an army. Baruch Hashem, it's a very good army. But the truth is, right, that nevertheless, even though the army is very, very good, it's probably the best army in the world they have over there today, right? In terms of quality, right? Not in terms of quantity. In terms of quality, it's probably the best thing that you'll ever find. But nevertheless, though, that's not what wins the war. What wins the war is what? They say, right, that when you have 2 sides coming together and fighting a war, one with the other, what happens is that there is a judgment that occurs upstairs, in the heavens. What they do is they compare the merits and the sins of this nation against the merits and the sins of that nation. And whoever comes out better in the heavenly court, that's the nation that wins the war. Understand? So it's really a system of merits that that wins the war. But when we look at it in nature, when we look at it naturally, it looks like there's guns and there's cannons and missiles and rockets and all kinds of things like that. But the truth is that behind that, the spiritual reality is not that. It's just just physical, the outside, the surface, the outside surface. So the same thing, all right. We always, by the way, you should know, even in our times, even though in our times it's not as great, it's not as acute as it was, but also in our times, basically, many of the wars that we fought, and also in our generation, these were miracles too. They were, we were supposed to lose these wars. We were not supposed to win them. And the only reason we won them was because there were kinds of miracles that occurred, that otherwise we never would have won these wars. So the war is always won by the nation that has more merits. That's the way it is. So here also, Avraham Avinu, because him and Eliezer were 2 tzaddikim, two righteous people, so they were able to beat all these Rashaim, all these wicked people, because of their merits, not because they had any physical strength to beat 4 kings. How can you beat 4 kings with with millions of people in their army? There's no way. The same thing, by the way, occurred, in the time of Sancheriv, right, the king of Assyria, right, that he came to make a war against Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah, and the king of Yehuda. Same thing over there also. Chizkiyahu didn't have an army. He didn't even have people to ride on a horse. In those days, they used to ride on horses, you know what I mean? So he didn't have even horsemen to ride. He didn't have people with weapons, nothing. He didn't have nothing. So that's why, came the servant of the king of Assyria, right, Sanherib, and he came to mock him about that, right? Rav Shakeh, his name was, who was a Jew actually, right? He was an apostate Jew. He became like, he went with the Goyim. He went to the side of the Goyim. He was a defector. So this defector, Rav Shakeh, he came to make fun of the Jews over there, to mock them, to say, listen, the funny thing he said, you want to hear this? He comes over there, and the king of Ashur is now coming to conquer Jerusalem. He wants to conquer Jerusalem, and he's going to finish off he's going to conquer the whole Jewish people like that. So what happens is that first of all he sends his servant Rav Shakeh, and Rav Shakeh speaks Hebrew because he's Jewish. Understand? He's a Jewish guy, this guy. So he comes over there and starts screaming to them. So what is he screaming? He says something really funny, right? Like a joke. He meant to mock them. So what does he say? He says, you know what? He says, I don't mind. There's no problem. If you want to make war with us, like you think you're gonna battle with us and defeat us, or you're gonna repel us, you have no chance. He says, you know what? He says, not only you have no horses, you have no army, you have no strategy, you have nothing. But not only that, he says, you know what? He says, you don't even have people to ride on the horses. You don't even have people who are horsemen to ride on the horses. So he says, you know what? He says, the king of Ashur, of Assyria, is going to make you a deal. He said, if you can bring people to ride on the horses, he will supply the horses for you. You understand? To make war with us. In other words, he says, just give me 250 people who ride on a horse. He says, I'll supply the horses for you. No problem. You don't even have that. You don't even have people to ride on the horse. So there also, the same thing happened over there, right? There was a miracle. The Kadosh Baruch Hu went out to wage battle against the armies of Sanherib, and they were all killed by, there was an angel that came and burned their souls, and they all died in the morning. They were all dead. So this is also what happened. It was totally a miracle. Nobody went out to fight. Nobody wanted to make a battle here. There was no battle. There was no. This is the way it is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can make war with nations, with the Goyim, without any effort whatsoever, as long as the Jews have the merit to repel, the enemy forces. That's the only thing they need. They don't really need the weapons so much. The weapons, okay, it's good to have, to make it look natural, to make it look normal. But that's not really the bottom line. The bottom line is what the merits you have, what mitzvot you have, what Torah you have. This is what really wins the war, according to the Torah. This is our belief. This is our hashkafa. This is our philosophy. Okay, so let's go on. So here also, Avraham Avinu,
The Beis also will be without the war, right?
Now this is an interesting thing, right? If you really want to talk about the war of Gog and Magog, which is going to be, before, as we said, right, it's going to be very similar to this format that we saw over here. Meaning what? That we have two factions of Goyim fighting with each other, as we said, right? The Christians and the Muslims going one at the other. And here we have the Jews in the middle, and really the Chazal say, right, that the Jews won't even go out to make war over here in this war. How can you really make war with all the nations? You know what I mean? Like, if all the nations, can you imagine, will come now, to the doorstep of Jerusalem, France and England and America and all these, the countries, Russia, who can fight with them? It takes a miracle to beat all these nations. You cannot fight with them. So the only way to do it is just let HaKadosh Baruch Hu take care of it. That's what it will be. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of these nations, right? Took care of the nations that were against Avraham Avinu, and also took care of the nations that were against the Jews in the times of the Greeks of Hanukkah, the miracle of Hanukkah, and also the time of Chizkiyahu. All these times, same thing. We have the same, recurring theme over and over and again. So here also, Gog and Magog, what will be is that the nations will come to wage war with the Jews, but the Jews won't even go out to fight with them. Hashem will fight with them. He will destroy them, right? And they will also destroy each other, right? Why? Because it says, right, that in the prophets, it says that what will happen is that the Muslims will come from one side and the Christians will come from the other side. And what will happen is that they will try to attack us, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make it that they will attack each other. In other words, He'll confuse them and make them hostile against each other, and they'll destroy each other. So we won't have to do anything, just sit at home and, watch the, CNN fake news, whatever, just see what's going on over there. You don't have to go out and do anything. There's nothing you got to do. Just watch it, take a look what's going on and enjoy it. That's what's going to be. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to turn one against the other. Instead of them coming at us, they're going to come at each other. And this is what happens, by the way, always. This is the way it always is. If you look in the Bible, if you look in the Tanakh, always when there's a war between the Jews and the Goyim, How Kadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the goyim? By making confusion amongst them, and they start battling each other. Instead of battling us, they start fighting each other. So this is like a confusion that he puts in their camp, in their and this is like a spiritual thing that he does. He puts in them this kind of a spirit, and they start attacking each other, and they leave us alone. So this is how many times it happens like this. And once they get confused, they start to run away, to flee. This is the recurring theme in all Tanakh. It's like that. So here also we have the same thing. Now, Gog and Magog is also the interesting thing about Gog and Magog. You should know also, by the way, interesting thing, right? That there's a lot of talk about the temple bound. The Jews are going to go up there or not going to go up there. Are we allowed to go up? We're not allowed to go up. So if we do go up, so should we build the third Bet HaMikdash?
I was there inside once.
You were inside.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
This was like before, like maybe 18 years. It was open.
I have several friends that were there. By the way, you're not allowed to go in there. You know that, right? Now you know. Right? You didn't know. I'm sure. That's the problem. A lot of people didn't know about that, so they went in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is that a lot of people are, the Goyim also have this worry. The Goyim, the nations, right? What they're worried about is that if we're allowed to go up there, maybe we'll start building up there. First a shul, first a synagogue, and then we'll make a Bet HaMikdash little by little. We'll start to build, to pray over there and all this. They don't want that. They're very scared. That very much scares them because they know that once we go up there, the presence is felt. So the next step is going to be they're going to start building this and building that, and little by little, they're going to be out of the picture over there. That's what worries them. But the truth is that it's not really, it's not reality. Their fear. Why is it not reality? Because it says in all the places in Chazal, whether it's the Talmud or the Midrash or the Zohar, that the third Bet HaMikdash is not going to be built by the Jews. It's going to come down from Shamayim, just like this. Like this. Right? So it's going to be something also miraculous.
How about the places, Alaska?
Yeah, that's no problem. It's like, sometimes when a person, a teenager, right? They have like oily skin, so they start to get pimples, So all that thing is like a little pimple, it's a little pimple there. And it's no big deal, All you have to do is, just take the pimple and just squash it, and it's gone, It's not a big deal. That little pimple over there. That's not the issue, right? But what they're trying to do is do all kinds of things, all kinds of set up all kinds of issues there on the Temple Mount to prevent us from going up there and from establishing. But they don't really have to do that. They're wasting time. We're also wasting our time to going up there because we have no business over there. We're not allowed to go up there anyway. They're also wasting their time trying to keep us away. So it's a useless waste of time. The truth is, right, that when Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go up there, we'll go up there free, no problem, happiness, everything good. But that's, we're still a little bit far away from that. Not, we're not, it's not going to be like, a couple of hours. We're not talking about a couple of hours. It could be also that, but, we're not, usually it's not like that. So, by the way, they say, right, it says in the Talmud, Masechet Eruvin, it says that the day before Mashiach comes, there has to be an event. What event is that? That Eliyahu has to come first. Eliyahu Navi has to come back and teach the Jews to get ready for Mashiach. Teach us how to greet Mashiach. All these things.
Whoever is in Israel or everywhere in the world.
I'm sorry.
Which Jews? Which people?
Well, the Jews will be gathered in. Eventually they're not going to stay here forever. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of time where they're all going to go back. So we're just here temporarily. You know what I mean? Until we finish our tikkun over here. Whatever we have some tikkun to do, some kind of rectification. Once we're done, we're out of here. We can't stay here forever. I mean, it's not our country. It's not our place. It's not really. We make it feel comfortable here, maybe somewhat, but it's really an illusion. You know what I mean? It's not really. It's not real. You can't stay here forever. How long can you stay here? It's not our land. It's not our place. We don't belong here. So the thing is that Kadosh Baruch Hu, Chazal say, will bring down the Bet HaMikdash all ready and made. There doesn't have to be one hammer, one screw, nothing, no cement, no stones, no nothing. All you have to do is just watch it. Watch it come down, and everything is going to be also surrounding areas, right? Jerusalem, all this is going to, Akadosh Baruch Hu is going to build everything himself there. Everything is going to be built and arranged by himself, by him. So we're not going to do it by nobody. It's going to be something very, very special over there. It's something like you never saw. You know what I mean? The building of Jerusalem, the Beit HaMikdash. It's going to be something very unique and unusual that you never saw in your life. Something like that. Can you imagine something which is done by God? A building which is done by God is not a building like we do. It's not the same thing, right? It's a different level, different grandeur. It's a different scale. So because of that, we have no reason to worry about what's going on Temple Mount and going up there and fighting about it. There's no reason to fight for these things. When the time will come, we'll go up there and everything will be good. That's not the issue. So anyway, the point is that Gog and Magog also will be like that. Basically, it will be like sort of like a miraculous kind of effortless kind of thing. But what there is going to be is that a lot of the wicked will be destroyed. You know, as they say, the Chazal, right, that 2/3 of the world will be wiped out during the war of Gog and Magog.
The Jewish people also?
Yes. You know why? What the reason is because also amongst the Jewish people is Erev Rav. You know, what's Erev Rav? This is the people who are not really Jewish in their souls. They're born to Jewish parents, but their neshama is not Jewish. They come from Goyim. They come from Amalek. They come from Esav. They come from Ishmael. Right, as it says in the Gaon Mevina, who brings it from the Zohar, these things. So those usually, right, the Erev Rav is bigger than the real Jews. In terms of numbers, they're more numerous. You know, that's why also most of the Jews will also have the same fate as the Goyim. Why is that? Because they're Erev Rav, these people. They're also, there's a lot of converts also who will convert at that time. They say, right, that before Mashiach comes, there'll be a lot of converts at that time. So Kadosh Baruch Hu will test them. How will he test them? He will see how they react to the war of Gog and Magog. In other words, it's going to be a very fearful time at that time, you know, a lot of fear, because all the Jews are going to be scared. All these nations are coming against us. You know, what are we going to do? Who are we going to turn to? You know, we have nothing to do. We have no answer. We have no solution. How can we fight against all these nations? So the answer is that the Jews who have faith, they're real Jewish, you know, they're in their neshama, in their souls. So they'll overcome that fear. They'll overcome that crisis, you know. But the ones who are from the converts that were not converted, the Shem Shamayim, right, not converted in a kosher with a kosher intentions. So those converts will not survive. Only the good converts will survive. What does that mean, good converts? Ger Tzedek, that they converted L'Shem Shamayim, because they love Hashem. Not because of some kind of ulterior motives, you know, to get a job or to marry somebody, whatever. All these things, that's not really considered to be a good convert. A good convert is one who loves Hashem, and he loves the Torah. So he converts because of that reason. So he's like a real Jew, you know, but in every way. No difference between him and us. We're all the same.
So
yeah.
Goyim also who are in these nations also 1/3 will survive, right?
Yeah, because there's also, you know, we have a concept called Hasidei Umot HaOlam. What does that mean? That they're also the pious people from the Gentiles, right? That these people they love the Jewish people, they love Israel, and you know, they always come to help us and support us, just like we saw, right? Baruch Hashem, this wonderful man, you know, the president of America. He's you know, he's such a wonderful person that he helps us every way he can. And he helps us with Jerusalem, he helped us with all these things in the United Nations, the support that he gave us, all these things. You can see also as vice president, right? These two guys, they're amazing people. They really love the Jewish people. So these people are very, very special, you know? They're not just regular Gentiles. These are really pious Gentiles that love God, they love the Jewish people, and they love everything about that. So this is like a very rare thing. It's, you know, not always we have a privilege of having somebody like this, you know, in the White House, somebody who loves the Jews like this man does. Amazing. It's really amazing. God bless him. God bless his family. God bless all his people, all his helpers, all his assistants, all of them. They're wonderful, wonderful people. These people. They come. They're helping us with all their heart. You know, with all the. It's unbelievable. Who would think such a thing like this? That you have a person like that supporting us like that. Very, very special. So we do have also, and by the way, in the Muslim world as well, there are people also who are righteous over there. You know, and the Druzim, all these people, the Druze, these people also, they love the Jews. They support us, they help us, all kinds of things. So these nations that are, you know, by the way, you see, if you really look, you know, on the internet, you see that there's just so many people right now who are supporting the Jews. There's a lot of Gentiles, you know, who are helping Israel, supporting Israel, cheering for Israel. So what happens is that Hashem will test them in the end. What's the test? That those people who are now getting so close to the Jewish people, how will he test them? He'll bring Gog and Magog, right? It's going to be a very scary time. So the ones who have real faith in Hashem and in the Jewish people, they'll stick with us even in that rough time, that tough time, which is going to be very difficult, right? Like it says, Rabbi Yochanan says, right, that he should come Mashiach, but I don't want to see him, he says. It says in the Talmud like that, Rabbi Yochanan. What do you mean you don't want to see him? Why don't you want to see him? Because it's going to be such a rough time that time. It's going to be so difficult and so scary and so frightening that only the person who has a complete faith will be able to get through all that critical time. They say, right, that time will be the scariest and most frightening and most, totally, the biggest crisis that ever was in the world for the Jewish people. So it's going to be something very, very unique. A person has to have total faith. And the ones who did not convert L'Shem Shemaim, they didn't convert because they love Hashem, so they won't be able to make it. Hashem will test them with that, right? With that test, which is a very difficult test. You have to get through that, the fright and all that, all the threat that will be around us from all the nations and so forth and so on. Okay, let's go on. Let's see. We'll do like another 5-10 minutes, right? Something like that?
Yeah, I have five minutes.
Good, very good. So we'll stop in 5 minutes. So it says,
it's interesting. Very.
Once now, Avraham Avinu, right, saves all the possessions of Sodom and Amorah and all these other kings. There's 5 kings over here, right? So what happens is the king of Sodom comes now to Abraham to thank him, for all this effort that he made. My friend Abraham, God bless you, you're such a good man, everything, whatever. So he says, you know what, since you did this job of recovering our possessions like that, our wealth, which was taken away, so he says, let's make a deal. I'll make a very good deal with you, no problem. You take all the wealth, all the possessions you take, just give me the people, my country, my people, my subjects, my population, right? My citizens, give me those people. Well, that's all I want. The possessions are all yours because you were the one who retrieved it, right? It belongs to you. By the way, this is the truth because once, they say that even though these possessions belong to the Sodom and Amorah, but once it was taken away in war, so they lost hope of getting that back. So once a person loses hope of getting something back, it's considered to be like ownerless now. So you can't say after that, it belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. What do you mean belongs to you? I got that. Why? Because I went and I saved it. You could not have saved it. So that doesn't belong to you. It was stolen from you, right? You lost hope. You gave up hope on that. So he realized that, the king of Sodom. That's why he told Avram, he said, you know what? The possessions are yours. They're rightfully yours. You're the one who retrieved it. We couldn't have done it without you. So take everything. And just give us our citizens back. So Aram says, wait a second, tells him, no. He says, I don't want your possessions. Take everything back, right? I won't even take a shoelace from you. I don't want nothing from you. Right, exactly. So the question was, why did he tell him that? Technically speaking, he could have taken it, really, the truth is. So then why did he tell the king of Sodom like that? So the answer is that he didn't want to make a chilul Hashem. He didn't want to desecrate the name of God. What does that mean? That Hashem promised him. Everybody knew that, by the way, right? This was like a famous thing now, right? It was all over the news. It was all over CNN, Fox, everything. Everybody knew that Hashem promised Avraham Avinu that he's going to get rich. Hashem will make him wealthy. He will give him the blessing. So he says, if I take now your possessions, right, that will ruin the whole effect of the promise of God, right? Meaning what? That you'll take, in other words, you'll take credit for what was supposed to come from God. You'll say, you made me rich. No. I don't want that, right? I want the wealth to come from Hashem. I don't want the wealth to come from you. You should take the credit for that and say, I did it. It wasn't God, it was me. Wait a second, it's no good, I don't want that. So Rabbi said, I don't want nothing from you. Take everything back. All I want you to do is just what? The people who came out to fight the war with me, my helpers, so give them their wages for that. He personally didn't want to take any wages for that. But he told, at least give the people who worked, who did the job, give them their wages, and that's it. That's a fair deal. So that's exactly what happened here. That Avraham Avinu, right, saved Lot, and he saved all his possessions and all possessions of Sodom and Amorah, and this is how the war ended up. Okay, so we'll stop here.
Yeah.
Chazak u'baruch. Chag Sameach.
Yeah.